Hello, hello. Yeah, okay. Now it's okay. Okay, so a very good afternoon, everybody. This is the first day of the fourth season of the presentations. Semester 4 students are making the presentations on first day. This is the afternoon session. And in this session, these students are going to make the presentations. Let me share a screen to have a list of the students. Okay, so we have first presentation by Janvi, and she will make presentation on transgender issue in Indian society from the viewpoint of Arundhati Roy novel, The Ministry of. Now, this is not the correct way of putting the title. I just have told that write titles properly. Now you know that you can ask ChatGPT also to give you a proper title. So this unnecessary comma, Arundhati Roy novel, if you want to say Arundhati Roy's novel, if you are giving the title of the novel, there is no need to put novel there. Arundhati Roy's The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, you can say. Indian I should be capital, society S should be capital, all key words in the title should be capital, and this I am telling you fourth time, means every semester fourth time. In the, another way we can say it is 16th time, because every day I have told that. In previous 3 semesters, all 5 days I have to tell this to somebody. And yet, I don't think this is very difficult thing to remember. કોઈ અઘરી વસ્તુ છે નહીં કે આપણને આના માટે 10 વખત કે 50 કે 100 વખત લખવા આપે તો જ યાદ રહે. કદાચ આપણે નોંધ નથી રાખતા કે આ બધી વસ્તુ શીખવાની છે ને રાઇટિંગ રાખીએ. સેમેસ્ટર 1 2 માં જે ઇન્સ્ટ્રક્શન્સ આપ્યા હોય ક્યાંક લખી રાખ્યા હોય તો આ સિઝન શરૂ થાય એ પહેલા આપણે બુક ખોલી અને વાંચી લઈએ કે શું ઇન્સ્ટ્રક્શન્સ હતા. આટલું બધું પ્લાનિંગ તો આપણા મનમાં ક્યાંથી આવે કે સેમેસ્ટર 1 ની નોટબુક અત્યારે ખોલીને જોવાની હોય? એ તો ક્યાં ખોવાઈ ગઈ હોય 1 અને 2 ની બુક તો. So this I told that during live I don't want to give any comments, but you say हम नहीं सुधरेंगे. અમને તો આવું બધું ટકોર કરાવો તમે તો જ કદાચ હવે સીધા થાય. અમે હવે 6 મહિનો મારા હાથમાં તો તમને સીધા કરવાનો. પછી તો તમે સમાજમાં જવાના ને આવું જ ત્યાં કરશો એટલે કહેશે કે આ ભાવનગરના વિદ્યાર્થી અરજી ન કરે તો સારું, અરજી કરે તો ક્યાંક અમારે ફેલ કરો, પણ એના કરતા એપ્લાય જ ન કરે આ લોકો તો સારું. તો એને સ્ક્રુટિની કરવી ને એમાં માથાકૂટમાંથી આપણે બચી જઈએ. Second one will be followed by Jheel, Marginalized Communities in the Globalized World, from Ministry of Utmost Happiness. Full title you have to write. If there is a, whatever it is, all articles and other things. So with titles, the way writers are writing, we are not supposed to compromise about those things. We have to mention full title the way it is mentioned by the writer. The third one will be by Khushboo, Ecofeminism in the Myth of Manasadevi in Amitav Ghosh's Gun Island. Mayuri will be the next one to present on migration and human trafficking in Gun Island. Nehalba Gohil will read on themes and characters, something preposition you have to say in Revolution 2020, okay? Or themes and characters of Revolution 2020. Title we have suggested you, inverted, single inverted comma. In the title there is a title. So then you have to use, because whether Revolution 2020 is a word or a title of a novel, how can we differentiate? We know it is a novel. Everybody don't know that it is a novel. And Gun Island also. We can't expect that everybody in the society are aware that Gun Island is a novel. It is not so. Nobody knows who is Amitav Ghosh also. So how we have to differentiate with that. And you have studied everything in research methodology. Punctuation marks is also the topic in research methodology there. So now you are supposed to read and understand that also. Okay, Nidhi will read on Mourning and Melancholy in Julian Barnes's Levels of Life and the Only Story. Nilay will read on Symbolic Interpretation of the Ministry of Utmost Happiness. Nirav, Amreliya, Julian Barnes, The Only Story as a Memory Narrative. And Vachchalata on Eco-Critical Concerns in the Hungry Tide and Gun Island. Okay? Okay, so let us start with the first presentation. Yes, so Janvi, you can start with your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a afternoon session, and my topic is transgender issues in the Indian society from viewpoint of Arundhati Roy's novel, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. This is my personal details. The Ministry of Utmost Happiness and Arundhati Roy. About the author, Arundhati Roy is a contemporary Indian writer and the political activist, and the another is a non-fiction or fictional writer. She was born in Shillong in 1961. The Roy. The Roy grew up in Kerala, where his mother, Mary Roy, was a prominent women's rights activist and founder of the Indian Christians women's movement. After the completing her education in New Delhi, working as a screenwriter and the architect, Roy published The God of Small Thing in 1907, which became a major critical and success, winning the Booker Prize and being translated into our 14 languages. The novel explored the theme of family love and social inequality in the Kerala, and is known for the lyrical prose and the languages. The novel. Uh, experimental narrative structure. Following the success of the God of Small Theme, Roy became involved in the political activism, forcing on issues of social justice, environmentalist globalization, and he called for a major, equitable, and suitable world. In the addition of the political activism, Roy has con- uh, continuated to the write both fiction and non-fiction. Her other work of fiction, including The Ministry of Utmost Happiness 2017, which explored the life of marginalized communities in the India, and the elaborate of Infinitive Justice 2001, a collection of essays and articles on social and political issues. Her non-fiction work including Broken Republican 2011, which explained the impact of this state voice and corporate greed to tribal community in India, and Capitalism, a Ghost Story in 2014, which critique their effective neoliberal economic politics on the poor and marginalized. Roy works have received numerous awards and honors, including Lemon Culture Freedom Prize, Sandy Peace Prize, and Nor Millionaire Prize of Distinguished Writing. Her political activism has also led to her being arrested and charged with sedition in India, although he charged were eventually dropped. My topic is what does the transgender means. The transgender is in umbrella terms for a person whose gender identity, gender expression or behave does not confirm that typically associated with the sex to which they were assigned at the birth. The gender identity refer to the person internal sense to bring a male, female, or something less. Gender expression refer to the way a person communicate gender identity to other through the behave, clothing, hairstyle, voice, or body characteristic. Trans is something used for shorthand for a transgender, while transgender is generally a good term to use. Not everyone whose appearance of behavior is a gender non-conforming will identify as a transgender person. That way, that transgender people are talked about in popular culture, academia, and the science are constantly changing, particularly as individuals' awareness, knowledge, and opinions about transgender people and their experience grow. Introduction about the novel and transgender in the novel. The Ministry of Atmos Happiness novel by Indian writer Arundhati Roy. The transgender issue in the novel is portrayed mainly through the transgender protagonist Anjum, who was is a Hijra. When Anjum decided that she want to become a woman, she joined a community of Hijra called the Khwagba, or the House of Dream, where a group of transgender people live together and strengthen their community through a historical narrative. Although the House of Dreams seems to be an ideal place for them, Hijra suffer from their social position and outsider and insider at that same time. Moreover, Hijra have suffered from people's negative view of them and the unethical treatment of the sovereign in sex assignment, surgery, and the power of struggle and conflict between old and new generation Hijras in the House of Dream. Later, Anjum leaves the House of Dream to leave the graveyard where she set up the Jannat guest house or a brides. The guest house became a place where Anjum welcomed other Hijras to live the grid structural power of the established Hijra Gharana, with the Anjuman desire to be liberated from the home heteronormative society and the hierarchical system. She comes to live within the reality of graveyard where she from connection with other hijras. The Ministry of Atmos Happiness has been criticized from the limited patrol of transgender people struggle more trumpest and the formulaic description from the Anjuman, who is a trans woman, will be argued that against the criticism show him transgender people fight against heteronormatively in the other of follow. In India, transgender issues in India. Militarily and the multicultural country where the concept of a gender, class and class creative a sense of the decriminalization among the different categories of the people. The gender identity impact on Hijra live, they do not get a gender recognition, employment, proper housing, and the healthcare service properly. They face decriminalization and inequality so harsh that they feel that they are inferior in the neither man or nor a woman nor woman. The Nada says to the Nada says the although the crossing gender behave in a childhood is a prominent theme in a Hijra narratives. This behavior is not necessarily connected to a clear feminine gender identity. Hijra are in between gender and the face crossing gender situation. They are controversially community in Indian society that extends disputes ancient idea about sex or gender. Holman's rights recognition of a third sex and a third gender is not equal to valuing the presence of those who were neither male or female. Though Hijras are third gender, adopt a feminine identity and they are not like ordinary Indian women. Society cannot accept them as a female, rather, people have a negative attitudes toward them. Another side, the Indians face a national identity crisis is some of the places of the country. Though the people are citizens and the freedom are granted by the constitution, people still feel as they reside in a foreign land. They could not align with an ethically devised society, though they seek independence and isolation from their own country. They are in a bind because they do not know if they belong to India. The desire for a recognition, contribution to define and concept. Transgender rights under the Constitution of the India. The NCLA judgment paved the way of the recognition of transgender with the fundamental rights under the Constitution. The, the judgment has allowed transgender to have fundamental rights under Article 40, 50, 60, and 21 under the Constitution, and Articles 40, 50, and 60 protect right to equality, while Article 21 provides the rights to live with dignity, the right to choice, and right to privacy, amongst others. Article 21A also provides for rights to education in India, fundamental rights under the Part 3 of the Constitution. This is applicable to those who identify themselves as a third gender at a Nicholas stands for example of the 460 to the 14-year-old. In the NSLA judgment experiment clarified that all transgender have the rights to education. The Transgender Person Act 2019 obligated educational institute to be inclusive toward transgender will adequate faculties. In the Madras High Court also lead down direction for educational institute to provide for a gender nuclear restrooms and additional categories to gender on importance from however changes and implementations of these guidelines have been poor at the grassroots level. In the status of the inheritance rights in India via the transgender. Transgender inheritance right remain a problem in India. The gender inheritance laws identification, Muslim personal law, Hindu section act, and the another use of wills, another rights remain the problem of India. The first is gender inheritance law. The inheritance law in India are governed by personal religious law and create gender terms. This make it difficult from the transgender person to lay claim inheritance sense of law of inheritance only recognition rather male or female. Although the issues has been raised numerous times with the law communists of the India, nothing has been done to address the writing of the law so far. Identification. The transgender often lack the basic identification document as the third gender, although the recognized by the court of law. Acquiring a document with the preferred third gender is a challenge. A lack of the identification contribute to the violence of the inheritance rights, as identification is necessary before possession of property and other assets. Hindu Section Act 1956. There is no mention of anyone else other than males or and a female. Section 8 defines rule of a section only. In terms of successing male, though different class in higher section 15 does the same from female class higher. Hires. However, to avoid changes, transgender useless category themselves as a female for inheritance matter. There is no ground for disqualification explicitly mentioned in the Act for Transgender. Muslim personal law Muslim law of inheritance of mainly drafted according to the Quran, the holy book in Islam. Muslim property is low, unconfident in India, and all Muslims are governed by the Shariat law for a section. There no indication of the transgender rights under the Shariat law, and once again the law is ambiguous when it comes to transgender inheritance right in Islam. Indian Section Act is act of governors, though who not Hindu, Muslim, Jain, Buddha or Sikh. Whereas these state seems gender neutral as the uses terms such as uh, created of learners discreated. However, the link solution still is not truly free of the binary and silence of this test of favorable toward then trans community use of wills. Section though will is Fiest way encouraging that a transgender person are given a share and inheritance. A will would always override any other mood of intense suction. It does not depend on a gender, can include all persons regardless of their characteristic. Another side, gender culture. Gender is a culture contrast, as Michael Foucault argued that the sexuality is not a natural future can or a fact or of a human life, but a constructed category of experience which has a historical, social, and culture rather than the biographical organs. Persons identified defined by his body and sexual identity is a society which is a repressive and negative force. Therefore, a power relation occurs, and it is centralized by a group of people, and it includes the hierarchical divisions based on social, political, and economical practice in institution. Roy portrayed an pluralization of gender and race regarding their identity of Hijra, who are treated as inferior, untouchable, and marginalized in Indian society. Woodward wrote, the world was ordered by gender division, with the gender giving meaning to social division. Gender is related to the social division of class, race, disability, and the sexuality. Hijra's community is divided and segregated in the society for the difference of sexuality. They are treated and discriminated as a third gender in the India, and the recent word from Hijra is third gender to the people of the world. In the novel, the Khagba House of the Dream, there was Anjuman's place to liberation and the self-experience. Once she became a permanent resent to the Khwab, Anjum was finally able to dress in the clothes she longed to wear. Outside in the world, her double voice created other people, and even a member of the government, like everyone else, they feared begin caused by hijra. People alienated her because of something superficial or lack of information or myth. And Anjum had the fight against the gender hierarchies, accepted gender norms, and in that way be a part of the uh, be a part of the anti-colonial resistance, and she said her emotional inscient free hand reminded in the Kwagba for 13 years. One day he founded a baby girl from was ambience or lost. Anjum looks her Khwaga and name her Jaina. After some time, he encountered a massacre in the Gujarat that was outcast of Godhra train attack. She got a traumatic shock from that incident and decided to leave Khwaga. She took refuge in a local Grementry and transformed it into the guest house and named into the Jannat guest house. She also started a funeral service from poor, isolated, and the subjugated people of the society. In the Roy view in the novel of the third gender, Roy gives the voice to the social outcasted community to the Anjuman or Afta's narrative and they describe their mental anguish with the deep psychological insight. Anjum was told by Nemo, another Hijra with whom she became intimate, that they were created by a god, an experiment. God wanted to create living being incapable of happiness, and therefore he created Hijra. The bathing husband and the cheating wives are all in us. The riot is inside us. The war is inside us. It will never settle down. It cannot. Roy showed that India is not utopia of the Hijra. Rather, they are always absent from all social rituals. India has a long established tradition of caste which specific boundaries of purity and pollution between the community society in homophobic and the Hijra are not treated as a human being. They attempt to the connected with the society, radiating in different social celebration as a wedding, birth, and housewarming ceremony are Roy in the book. They describe of ordinary people celebration, wedding, birth, housewarming ceremony, dancing, singing, their wild gathering voice, offering their blessing and thinking to embrace of the thoughts and run to occasion with curse and display unthinkable obscenely unless they are paid fees. Roy creation interpreted spiritual encounter as a dynamic dialect missions dealing with the race, class, caste, consequences of the characters. In terms of the dialectics of the gender identity as and space, Roy takes the reads in the street of Delhi, Kashmir, and some other place that are special in a nature. Roy does seems to with the statement now here is the tendency to the gender space as evident in a colonial, post-colonial, and neo-colonial space. The novel also tells the story of other people, such as R.S. wife, who find the space as in adhering oppressive force. Naga gets shocked where R.S. told about the personalized woman by physically violence. And another side is hijra. The translated are isolated from the society, deprived of their basic rights and forced to the lead of a life without self-respect. When he post globalized position, they are subjugated by male, female, and even by hijra within the society. The word of Hijra derived from the Persian word which means infinitive and incomplete. In the alternative word from Hijra are Hijra, and the promise of Hijra and Hijra. The word Hijra refused to eunuch or the third gender. In India and South Asian countries, though they have a combined gender identity, they adopted a feminine gender role and assumed themselves within the feminine epitasis. The famous feminist Indian writing in English thus in the poem The Dance of of the eunuchs. The portrayal in the observations of the eunuchs was adopted woman identity, and though they were defined by the narrative rules, the Das mentioned that it was not so hot before the eunuchs came to dance. Why does script go underground and round? They dance and they dance. Oh, they dance till they bleed. Injustice at every terms report of a national transgender. The everyday transgender and gender non-conforming people bear the brunt of social and economical marginalized due to discrimination based on their gender identity or experience. Advocate confirmed these reality regularly working with the transgender people who have lost housing, been fired from job, experience mistreatment and violence, or being unable to access to health care they need. Too often, policymakers, service providers, the media, and society at the large have dismissed or discounted the needs of transgender and gender non-conforming people, and the lack of hard data on the scope of anti-gender discrimination has the work to make subsequent policy changes to address their need. In 2008, the National Center for Transgender Equality and the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force from groundbreaking research parentship to address this problem, launching the first comprehensive national transgender discrimination study. The data collected bring into the clear focus the prevalence and the overwhelming collective weight of discriminations the transgender and gender non-conforming people endure. The report provides information on discrimination in every major area of life, including housing, employment, healthcare, education, public accommodation, family life, criminal justice, and government identity document. Is virtually every setting the data undercross the errant need the policymaker and community leaders to change their business as usual approach and confront the devastating consequence and the anti-transgender base. The 63 percentage of our participant experience series act discrimination event that would have a major impact person quality of life and ability to situate themselves family or emotional. And the another the point of transgender, the laws to change the is the sexuality. The loss of job due to base evaluation, school teacher physically sexually testing, homeless because of gender identity, loss of relation with partner, children, etc. Denial from the medical service and in correction due to the gender identity. Another, each those they can divested and have to long-term consequences, as we will see in the report. Almost a quarter our responded experience graph level of discrimination having been impacted by at last three of above major life distribute even due to the bias. Imagine losing your home, your job, children, teachers because of your gender identity and sexuality isolated. Those compounding act of discrimination due the prejudice of their unjust law exploitation increase the difficulty of bringing back and re-establish as a stable economic and home life. This is my first citation. Thank you.
can you see the time there? Time? How much time is it?
35.
35 minutes. And you are the first one. This much time we have not given to plenary speakers also. National seminar at the local department levels. National seminar, plenary speakers are also not given this much time. Or people from IIT Madras are also not given this much time. So, presentation is how to be brief. From the first semester, remember this is taught. Assignment, write as long as you want to write. Write 100 pages in assignment. Dissertation, we have given limit, but write 500 pages. No need to worry. But here, you have to be as brief as possible. This is a different skill. And how you can tell your point within few words. And that is why this practice is. So if you take this much time and you just keep on reading slide, then what is the meaning of that? You know why in seminar presentation people are not given time? They say we are not given time, but because of this kind of cases. If you give time, they will keep on reading, dull reading. So you say tell everything in 5 minutes. So we learn in that way. So if you be a part of such seminar conference, at least then improvement may come. That this is what will I do in the seminar. If I will read each and every word, what will happen to the other people? Just ask yourself. You don't have to take anybody's suggestion or recommendation, but just ask yourself. If you have you seen your videos, any of the videos? Then also you might have learned that I should like make it brief or what is the purpose of reading only and so small font that even on the large screen it is difficult to read. How can people read on mobile? Most of you are reading on mobile. So you know that what is the problems of reading on mobile. Then why you make such presentations? We may make because we rarely use mobile phone, we use laptop. So if we make that, it is fine that we are from old school. But you are from new school, you deal with mobile a lot. And you know very well that what is visible on mobile, what is not visible. So your practices should be better and improved than our practices. Okay, who is asking the question?
Janvi, my question to you is tell me your opinion towards fake LGBT supporters in contemporary society we see daily and early third gender and the earlier third gender community.
You can come and sit there.
My opinion is fake LGBTQ supporter in a contemporary time is only. He's only a fake supporter because he's not to inside a support in the third gender or accept the as a third gender character. He's only the outside as accept as a third gender character or LGBT of the people, but not inside is accepted as third gender people and stay with her.
Next.
Janvi, my question to you is that what steps should be taken by the society and government to make the queer identity as acceptable as all humans in terms of mass mentality and the human rights concerns? And the second part of my question is what can be the hurdles in doing so? Please.
Government and the society take steps to step is should be the equality. All the faculties and the male or female as equal, the third gender, and is accept as a third gender, or the stay with third gender, not the misbehave, or all the rules and the contributions rights are equal with the male, female, or the third gender character. Thank you.
You have used, just a minute, you have used this one article for your citations and also for the reference. This article, American Psychological Association, APA's on what does transgender mean. Okay. So in this, let me remove this. Here I think they are giving. See here, you will see this button here. How to cite this? This is that button. If you click on that, they will give cite this. How to cite. Now this is APA style because this is APA, or you just have to convert it into MLA then. So sometimes sites are giving, so you have to follow that, at least their full name, American Psychological Association. That we have to follow. If we try to modify with our needs, then also key things that are required for the citation, how to find. So that way, such websites are good websites, authentic source. They always try to give these resources also. Okay, you can share the screen.
Of paper numbers 207, Contemporary Literature in English is Marginalized Communities in the Globalized World, with reference to the Ministry of Utmost Happiness by Arundhati Roy. This is my personal information. This is table of context. Beginning with the introduction, globalization is a word which is used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economics, culture, and the population brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technology, and flow of investment, people, and information. Globalization comes with development, and the development has positive and negative impacts. Development, of course, brings the economic growth, but it leads to the displacement of the marginalized communities due to the development projects, which leads to the loss of the traditional ways of life of a marginalized communities. Talking about the novel, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, it was published in 2017 and it is Arundhati Roy's second novel, a multi-layered story which talks about the political and the social landscape and explores the themes such as gender, identity, love, and impact of political conflict on the ordinary people's life. It was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2017. It also gives the multidimensional depiction of the Indian society of both the dominant class and the subjugated class. Dr. Tanu Kashyap, in her article Aligning Connotations of Lost Identities in Arundhati Roy's The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, says that her novel, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, also portrays a world where people suffer at the hands of the authority. This is the burning issue of Kashmir insurgency, where violence and ferocity has become day-to-day problem. The novel is giving us variety of dialogues and lines, like skyscrapers and steel factories sprang up where the forest used to be. Rivers were bottled and sold in supermarkets. Fish were tinned, mountains mined and turned into shipping missiles. Massive dams lit up the cities like Christmas trees. Everyone was happy. This statement gives us how modernization and development in the city was affecting to the city. The dams which ruins the ecological river system, harms our aquatic life, and does not provide the sufficient water to the farmer. This one incident related to the project of the dam, that is Narmada Bachao Andolan, is also witnessed in our society. One of the article by Khan also says that the people who have been deliberately silenced and marginalized from the mainstream to the periphery, like the untouchables, that are Dalits, the poverty-stricken, the tribals, the transgenders, and in some cases women as well as elderly. This novel seeks the consolation for those people who are unconsoled, as the a novel in the beginning says that it is for the unconsoled. The novel also talks about how the unprivileged population had to evict from the cities without any reason. However, the inconsiderate people who are at the higher level of the social structure, that is elite class, live their blissful life in the society where the development is happening. That is away from the lights and advertisement. Villages were being emptied, cities too. Millions of people were being moved, but nobody knew where to move. The character Biplav Das Gupta is talking about the changing atmosphere around him. Most of the older houses has been torn down and plush new developers. Flats were coming up in their place. Nostalgia for older, quieter time perhaps. And the difference between the elite class and the marginalized is also told very in a uh, uh, very wonderfully way in the novel. The novel statement also talks that how the authority was behaving differently towards the marginalized. As the Anjum was living in the graveyard in the Jannat guest house, it was an unauthorized construction. There also they were getting the municipal authorities were coming there for the warning that they need to empty the place. And the bunya, I would like to say the bunya in the wire in the article has said, in the article named India's unplanned urbanization is far from smart, says that the socio-spatial hierarchy in the country's ever expanding cities is growing deeper, even as inequalities of income, access, and opportunities remain unarrested. Marginalization and ghettoization remains appallingly commonplace in Indian cities. These were all the things which we have noted in the novel, that how the marginalized communities are being affected. If we see in a contemporary time where the world is globalizing, there are various such incidents which can be noted, like the farmers' like land is taken from them for the widening of the road for Chatham project. Then we have recently witnessed the Joshi sinking for the economic benefits, that our government wants financial benefits, and which is affecting to the land which is on the hills and the mountains. Then as we talked about the Narmada Bachao Andolan, there is also one statement in the novel which talks about that how the marginalized are lying on the road, and they have to face the accidents at the night, in the night when the elite class are moving in their high class car, which is also witnessed when the Salman Khan case of 2002 was there of hit and run. Then the beautification drive was given in the emergency period by Sanjay Gandhi, when the all the margin land of marginalized communities were bulldozed by them. Then POSCO steel plant, which had also faced opposition from the local communities, mainly from the Adivasis, who argued that the project would displace them from their land and forest and destroy their traditional way of life. And the Vedanta bauxite mining in Niyamgiri Hills project also faced opposition by the Dongaria Konth tribe. In conclusion, we can see that the novel by Arundhati Roy is talking about how though the main theme of the novel is not about how the marginalized are facing the difficulties in the developing and the globalizing world, but the novel is very true to the contemporary time, that how the marginalized community is facing problem while the world is developing. These are my work cited. Thank you.
Can you say that the novel is a good example to see the Indian government?
We can say that novel is wonderful, is giving a good depiction how we can't specifically say that it's only the issue with the Indian government. We see that how authority is working in the society, how it is affecting to the marginalized community, all the people who are not elite class, and we reading the novel, going through the novel, we get the reality of the world. And this novel is anyway the criticism or a satire to the authority and the way of working and the decisions they have taken in the society.
See, my question is, what are the steps can be taken to stop land grabbing by multinational companies?
In a way, if we talk about the steps to be taken to stop all this land grabbing, I think on a personal level we can't suggest anything that how this situation can be overcome. In a way, the situation needs to be seen by the authority and the companies, that what they are doing is really necessary to do. If it is not, they can if they can leave that project aside, uh, they can. And if it necessary, then then the things needed to be done in the society for the development. But we can say that the marginalized communities who are getting affected due to all this development can be helped in the other way. They are given compensation, but perhaps it is not enough to sustain their whole life, which can be sustained in the land which they already had. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Today I deal with the topic of ecofeminism in the myth of Manasadevi in Amitav Ghosh novel Guns Island. This is my personal information about the author of Amitav Ghosh. He born in Kolkata and grew up in India, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. He studied in Delhi at Oxford and Alexandria. They are the works works are uh, like the circle of reason, the shadow lines in an antique land, dancing in Cambodia, the Calcutta chromosome, the glass palace, the hungry tide, and the Libis trilogy consisting of sea of poppies, river of smoke, and flood of fire. Gun Iceland by Amitav Ghosh. It was published in 2019. It was written in a contemporary period. It was a historical fiction and first person narrative of point of view. uh, what is ecofeminism? Ecofeminism emerged as a literary movement during the early 19th 17th century. Ecofeminism is the correlation between the subordination and oppression of women and nature. Ecofeminism is a means to establish the connect between woman and nature. Ecofeminism is a branch of feminism and political ecology. Ecofeminist thinkers draw on the concept of gender to analyze the relationship between human and natural world. Ecofeminist analysis explore the connection between woman and nature in culture, economic, religion, politics, literature, iconography, and addresses the parallels between the oppression of nature and the oppression of woman. The myth of Mansa Devi. Mansa Devi is a goddess of snakes, who was regarded as one of the most powerful and revered of the non-Aryan deities. Mansa is an enduring goddess, worshipped mainly for protection against the perils of snake bites. Abiding in dogs and bogs and marshes provide a natural habitat for snakes. Different villages cultures have their local rituals and practice centering Mansa. The story of Mansa being with conflict between a merchant Chand Sodagar refusing to worship goddess Mansa. The story ends with the Chand Sodagar becoming a ardent devotee of Mansa. The story start beginning of the story is Chand Sodagar not want to worship of Mansa Devi. He want to worship of Lord Shiva. That the Mansa Devi is not not she want to Chand Sodagar worship for her. Her myth signifies many anti-establishment profiles. She is a semi-divine female, conferring the established partially be in the divine Lord Shiva or the temporal capitalist authority of Chand Sodagar. The myth of goddess Mansa Devi is a part of Bengali folklore. Her epic rivalry with Chand Sodagar is the vent and warp of the plot. Mansa Devi is the snake goddess. She optimized feminism and therefore earth. The Sodagar, the merchant, is commercially inclined, the bent on monetary gain. He optimized partially and male power, the power of his gender, of his capital, topped by patron from Lord Shiva, makes Chand Sodagar powerful, strong, and overburning. On the other hand, Mansa is a woman who has command over the netherworld of snakes and separates and the an unbreathed ambition is her only defense. It is with the feeble resource that she wakes a relentless campaign for respect and recognition. The myth is nail-biting adventure of the tempest tons of the struggle between Chand and Mansa. In today's context, Mansa is genuine feminist icon. Feminist value in the myth of Mansa Devi. The myth of Mansa Devi in Amitav Ghosh novels embodies several eco-feminist values, including that respect of our nature, emphasis on the feminine option or to domination, holistic perspectives. First is respect for nature. Mansa Devi is a symbol of the interconnectedness of nature and human beings, emphasizing the importance of respecting and protecting the environment. The Mansa Devi in the novel Gun Silent epitomized the protective possessiveness and passionate spirit of nature. Her capacity to regenerate, reproduce, and replenish is what breathes life into the earth, even when annihilation is systemic and complex. Her spirit and presence in the book are all preventing and persistent. Second, emphasize on the feminism. Mansa Devi is a feminine figure who embodies nurturing and protective qualities associated with women. This highlights the value of feminine quality and perspective is in promoting the Mansa Devi in novel epitomized the protective, possessive, in passionate spirit of love of nature. Goddess Mansa Devi in all her manifestation in a symbol of the unity of all life in nature. Her power manifests in water and stone, in tomb and cave, in animals and birds, snakes and fish, hills, trees and flowers. Opposition to domination. The opposition and domination exploration of nature is seen in her role as a protector of the land and its inhabitants. She is a lone warrior who fights the recognition from the establishment of a power system personified by Chand Sodagar. Her fight is purely personal and on her own terms. She is a calculated negotiator, a determined goal-oriented goddess who uses her power to extract her dues rather than give it all away in a selfless benevolence that females are always expected to display. Holistic perspective. Perspective that recognize the interdependence of all living beings and the need for a balanced relationship between human and nature. Ghosh believes in the holistic and myth poetic perspective of the scareness and mystery of all there in on earth. Legend has it that the goddess gradually re-entered into the depths of forest or onto mountain tops. Today, her presence is limited to beliefs that the fairy stories. When human get alienated from nature and earth, the result is chaotic. This is evident to our contemporary society, but the cycle never stopped turning, and the goddess as is revealed in Gun Islands, re-emerged from the forest and mountains to remind us to revisit and revise it and return to our basic human roots. A conclusion is that in this context, that Ghosh present the cult of Mansa, who survive as a fighting spirit and commanding authority of feminine spirit and energy. She not shy of pursuing self-interest and ambition, even at the risk of being deemed too aggressive or unfeminine. Mansa's unitarian quest for her right rightful place can be and inspiring the role model. She is the relentless ecofeminist who pursues the merchant tirelessly and uh, ferrets him out of any corner of the globe. He chose to hide from her war. Mansa's power has a sharp vindictive edge. She does not hesitate to resort to trickery, correction, or broad strength, or to subvert her enemies. Her prose subject to partial concept, and she breathes the eco-feminist strength of courage and compassion, of patience and endurance, of optimism and opportunity. References.
Khushboo, in your view, does the character of Manasadevi in the novel challenge the idea of dominant male gaze in literature and culture? And dominant male gaze, I mean the ma- way of men of looking at women as by objectifying her.
Yes, in the in the character of Mansa Devi, she in the character of Mansa Devi, in myth of Mansa Devi, the Sodagar want to Sodagar worship for Shiva, Lord Shiva. Uh, he not worship for Mansa Devi, so uh, she want to she want to as he worship for her, so she doing a lot of things against Sodagar to worship to make a worship for her. So yes,
Khushbu, my question is, how does the myth of Mansa Devi challenge dominant culture narrative about gender and power in the novel? And what is the significance of this for ecofeminism?
The myth of the Mansa Devi is challenge dominant culture narratives about the gender and the power in novel. Sodagar is not accept the worshipper of Mansa Devi. He used to worship Lord Shiva. So it was the significance of the female character is
Hello everyone. A contemporary literature paper. My topic is migration. Hello everyone. Contemporary literature paper. My topic is migration and human trafficking in Gun Island by Amitav Ghosh. Personal information. Author introduction. Amitav Ghosh, born in Kolkata and grew up in India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. His most of work is a main theme is climate change, human trafficking, and many other things. The novel and migration. The novel highlights the harsh reality faced by migrants and the vulnerab- uh, sorry, vulnerability of those who are trafficked. Ghosh portrays the disruption of the people who are willing to risk everything for the change at a better life, and the way in which traffickers prey on this desperation. In the novel, we see how the human traffickers use the deception, and this novel's main theme is the climate change. But Amitav Ghosh was deliberately, or we can say deliberately, stand for humanity, refugee crisis, and human trafficking and migration. Amitav Ghosh's 2019 novel Gun Island can be seen as the response to the political and social impresses created by climate change and forced migration. There are many migrations happen in this novel, and most of them are forced migration because of the poverty, calamity changes, and many other things. The main discussion on the migration crisis in the two way by positing the human migration as the continuum rather than an explanational event by underscoring the agency of the migrants by showing how Rafi and Tipu carefully execute their plans against the pressure from the human traffickers and border security guard. As we know that Rafi was there, but Tipu was somehow he was stuck by the human traffickers. Gun Island juxtaposing of the pre-modern myth in ongoing anthropogenic climate change and reframes the contemporary discourse of climate change migration by pointing out that our shared species history is marked by both human and non-human migrations. Rafi and Tipu decided to move illegally with the help of dalals from Bangladesh across the border of India, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, Bulgaria, Serbia, Hungary, Australia to Italy. But while crossing the Iran-Turkey border, Tipu is injured and has to take a detour through the Egypt, from where he takes a boat to Sicily, where he confronted by Italian border security guard. As we know that a blue boat and uh, situating the current European migrants crisis in context of fluid and continuous idea of migration dating back generation. Gun Island critique the nation state refusal to see the planet as a place for shared belonging grounded in ethics towards the other. As we know that in the novel, Italy's government are not happy with the refugee boat, a blue boat, and Amitav Ghosh was a stand for this humanity, as the planet of this planet is the home of every human being. Human migration, a social political phenomenon in a contemporary times, refer to the journey of people across the international borders or within their own country. Such journey arise from varied ecological, social, political, religious and economic factors. Illegal migration who undergo the political unrest, social turmoil during the migration are often suffers from identity crisis, imprisonment, torture, exploitation through the bondage of labor, falsification of identity papers, drugs, armed trafficking, force uh, prostitution, and human trafficking are some silent feature of the undocumented migration throughout the world. Illegal migration have these kind of these things which they can if they are not well educated or they are not legally migrate, so they can work as the labor or they forcibly join this kind of the factors.
Amitav Ghosh Gun Island undertakes the exploratory journey into the present globalized world, anthropogenic, calamite, and other things. The text highlights the illegal migration, immigrants become the political refugee, social outcasts, and the homeless, nameless entities, the exploited resources, and the sordid tale of the illegal migration brought the poignantly yet sharply through two young characters, Tipu and Rafi, and there in the both character face the lots of trouble because of illegal migration, and the two other characters Lubna Khala and Palash, or the both are the migrant people who are suffer in the Italy. Gun Island focuses on the increasing, complicated, underdocumented cross-border migration. This is the age of economic globalization. Gun Island is the other trouble worker migrants face during their journey. The inhumanity of the traffickers, the risk of being a victim to the trade in human organs. They are specially smuggle the body parts of like a kidney and other things from the kids and the younger people. Gun Island is a story about the two intertwined issue, human rights and the climate crisis. He asked the urgent important question about the migrants and movement means a closed border, xenophobia. It was a phobia of people don't like the other countries people are doing a people whose own country have been a sorry historically devastated by colonialism. What this repeating imperialist history means for the today's world, they find their most complaining realization with Rafi and Tipu, the two young men from the Sundarbans. Amitav Ghosh is the captivated by how such a migrations happen, the planning, the middleman, and the dangers of the journey in a human condition, the fear, the torture, the exhortations, and then for some arrival in the promised land and efforts to act out the new living to a fashion a new life. As we know, in recently 2022, a one Indian family died in the U.S. border to crossing the U.S. and Canada border. This kind of the condition of the human illegal migrations and other things, they have the fear to kept by the security forces, torture, and many other things. These are the some characters in this novel, and there are reason for the migration. Citation. Thank you.
Mayuri, my question is, can we relate or witness the mass migration depicted in the novel in the real time? You have already given one example of a family moving to an America, but here in your presentation, you are focused on human trafficking. Can you throw light on?
We can relate this novel with our real time. Illegal migration have the human trafficking because of they have not they are living in the very poor life. They have not having the legal documents with them. So this is the focus on the human trafficking. In their life, they have many things. They we can say that they can live in the danger, so they think that this is not if we move in the other countries, our family was having the good life there here.
My question is that Gun Iceland surely a novel about climate change and migration?
Yes, Gun Island is a surreal novel about climate change and migration because of their narratives. And first, it was a focus on the climate change myth, and then it was moving about the migration and human trafficking. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My topic is themes and characters of Revolution 2020 by Chetan Bhagat. This is my personal information. About Chetan Bhagat. Chetan Bhagat, born 22 April 1974, is an Indian author, columnist, and YouTuber. Chetan Bhagat graduated in mechanical engineering for IIT Delhi and then pursued PGP from IIM Ahmedabad. He started his career as an investment banker but left it after a few years to pursue writing. He was written 10 novels and 3 non-fiction books. His first novel, 5 Point Someone, was published in 2004. His novels, 5 Point Someone's, One Night, The Call Center, The Three Mistakes of the Life, Two State, Revolution 2020, Half Girlfriend, One Indian Girl, The Girl in Room, One Arranged Murder, 400 Days, plot analysis. Revolution 22 is a gripping and the fast-paced novel about the love, corruption, and ambition. The story delved into the unbearability of a small town, Varanasi, and explored the various hues in the characters of the protagonists in it. Bhagat unearths the dark side of the education system and, for that matter, love too. In the small and historical town of Varanasi in India, two boys, Raghav and Gopal, fall in love with the same girl, Arti. Both of them are intelligent, ambitious, and are the best of friends. But destiny has something else in store for them. One of them wants to use his intelligence to make a lot of money, and the other wants to create a revolution. But against their plans are distributed by their love. Three main characters, Arti, Raghav, and Gopal. Character of Arti. Arti's look had always down perspective comments for the school teachers. However, 2 years ago, when he turned 15, the whole school started talking about her beauty. The statement such as the most beautiful girl in Sunbeam School. She should be an actress or she can apply for Miss India became increasingly common. Her entry into the Sigma Stadium cricket ground would definitely describe the game. Batsmen would miss the ball, friends would miss catches, jobless mirror would whistle in the way they do to give up the bad name. Aarti was so smart, but she has not any ego or pride of it. As the cook has the greatest melancholy should, but it never comes in front of us. It always sits by holding itself in the lows, the tree. Gopal attacked towards Aarti for her childhood. Character of Raghav is from the middle class family but is the exceptionally intelligent. He wants to change the world and wants to remove corruption for India. He later becomes a journalist for a newspaper. Raghav, the brilliant student who cleared to join the IT BHU, is a man of principle. He would not join to a top class IIT institute saying he has to live in the city, Varanasi, and weep out the rampant corruption. He would not access a lucrative job offer from multinational companies but would rather join a newspaper to fight the war against the malpractice of the society. Character of Gopal is from a poor family. His father is a debt reader, retired teacher whose land is under litigation. Gopal's financial condition was poor, which made him think of only one goal to become rich by hook or by crook. He is secretly in the love with Aarti. He comes from a family which cannot support him on any front, and still his father take a loan to send him to Kota in order that his won many get a good rank in JEET or VIEE. But poor Gopal, despite and his father cannot bear the shock and British his last. Gopal left alone fight his way to success in the process, joined the corruption system, wins his presidency and defeat his rival Raghav and yet loses everything against. Themes of love, corruption, and ambition. Theme of love. Love. Once upon a time in small town India, there lived two intelligent boys. One wanted to use his intelligence to make money. One wanted to use his intelligence to start a revolution. The problem was they both loved the same girl. Basically, the novel is about the narrate from the perspective of Gopal in unfold a story about childhood friend Gopal and Raghav who loved Aarti. Gopal and narrator is the tragic hero, the Devdas of his love story plot of the novel. He deeply loved Aarti but sacrificed his love for the happiness of Aarti. Theme of corruption. The Revolution 20 is a critical novel of corruption in India, education system and coaching classes for comparative exam in India. The novel is set during the first decade of 21st century. In it, Bhagat focus on the trend of coaching classes to get selected into India's top most college. Bhagat has shared his experience which he's got from different parts of India. Speaking about the plot, story, characters, Bhagat gives the credit of the extensive journey of the India that takes place to deliver motivational speeches across the country. Theme of ambition. The novel is ambition with the bunch of characters and themes set in Indian city. The story moves from Varanasi to Kota and against Varanasi, moving from place to place. Bhagat's characters keep floating in the novel, do not stick out the inside the keeping achieving their goals, trying to link up a plot of the novel, but too little avail. Bhagat has tried to reveal the mind of these characters. This citation. Thank you.
Nehal, what is the significance of title Revolution 2020? Is there any revolution happening now?
Raghav is the broken the corruption is the significant title of the Revolution 2020.
Then my question is that according to you, which character related to the theme of corruption in the novel Revolution 2020?
Gopal was the character related to theme of corruption in the novel The Revolution 2020.
Hello everyone, I am Nidhi. Today is the first day of our presentation. In my presentation topic is Mourning and a Melancholy in a Julian Barnes novels, Levels of Life and the Only Story. This is my personal information. Introduction. In the in the concept of mourning and melancholy will be analyzed by refer to Freud's and Derrida's use illust- illustrate how Barnes subtly probed them into novels and an artist. About the author, Julian Barnes was born in Leicester, England in January 1946. He was awarded in the 2011 the Man Booker Prize for the Sense of Ending, and also Barnes' other awards include the Semester Megham Award, Jeffrey Faber Memorize Prize Award, and the E.M. Foster Awards. He has also translated a book by French author Alston Judith and a collection of German cartoons by Volker Kergels. The terms of mourning and melancholia. Mourning and melancholia are among the primary concepts they have come to interest and structure late of 20th and early 21st century in literary theory. The terms are not new. This historical movement in a Hippocrates believed that an excess of by cause melancholia and its synopsis to fear and sadness by they have taken on the urgent charge of a theorist response to the both the world around them and the shifting of the theory itself. Since the publication in the 1917, his essay Mourning and Melancholia, theorists have been applying the critique the ideas Freud formulated and examine how literature might register them. The Melancholy Philosophy essay by Freud and Benjamin. In his essay, 1917 essay, Mourning and Melancholy, Freud recognized two mutually exclusive response to loss, mourning, and the melancholy. This sharp distinction between the two responses has long since become almost synonymous with the understanding of a normal versus a pathological reaction to the loss. Both Freud, mourner, and a melancholy began with a basic denial and their loss and unwillingness of recognizing. And Benjamin understand of loss and his effect provide a challenge for a Freudian fiction distinction between mourning and melancholy. Benjamin's challenge is not direct, namely, he does not explicitly citizens Freud takes, but he nevertheless alludes to them a different manners, and they has been described the term such as uh, constellations, a long distance love affair, dependence, and intertextuality. Hence, the tracing the indirect characters of and his relation. The division between mourning and melancholy is completely absent from Benjamin's books and Transpial, in which he used the term tracker and melancholy inherently not surrendering to the distinction between normally and pathology, which psychoanalysis had made commonplace. Benjamin summons melancholy as the end of the second part of his Trotsfield books in order to rejoin and enrich his discussion of the special types of sadness and mourning expressed the transreal. In this, he is employs a melancholy in the order to understand mourning and does not use any form of differentiation between them. The only story novel, the Julian Barnes Slim's Grim, a new novel, the only story will remind fans a sense of an ending which won the Booker Prize. In the another novel, The Levels of the Lights, this novel published in 2013, and it is novel in three parts. First part is the scene of heights, the second is the one of the level, and the third is the lost of death. Now, after the death of his wife, Pat Kavanagh, whom he addressed the heart of my life and life of my heart, his inquiries, Barnes is now 74 and is a novelist trying to get used to living alone after the 30 years of his married life. This novel, The Only Story, is a remote echo of Barnes from 1989, is a rephrase of the course question of his 2018 novel, The Only Story. Would you rather love the more and suffer the more, or love the less and suffer the less? Barnes asserts that it is the finally the only real questions. In the novel, Levels of the Life and The Only Story are excite the Subbal's novel of Barnes is a major writer who believe now to know more about love and loss and ironically less about life. They focus on the psychology and the age are grieving men, elaborated on time and memory and study of love is the only thing that matter in our life. Levels of Life is a bring of history, fictionalization, biography, and memoir together in three parts. The first part, the scenes of height, are focused on the history of belonging aeronautics and aerial photography to illustrate the euphoria of a fight, showing up, challenging gravity, and testing freedom as the metaphor of a love which elevates the upon we fall in it. The second part, one of delivery, which is a fictional love story between two historical characters. The third part shows the first two parts were only the metaphysical introduction. The Barnes, the main aim to writing the book, is expressing his personal behaviorment. All and the only story, all the three parts is the levels of life begun with the same sentence. You put two things together that have not been put together before. And the only story, the part are not giving the name, the only giving the number 1, 2, and 3. The first part of which is the first two character is a Paul and Susan are lovers. The second part is describe her 10 years or their relationship, and the third part is a narrative by the third person, and they part shift to a narrative from you to he. The levels of the life and the only story can be read as the twin story of disguise, examining love and loss in a different periods. The questions raised by the former find and their answer of the latter. The different one might say that the only story the lovers could express their the sins of height or the loss of death. Whereas began in on the level he dumped the start to be a destructive levels of life, that there are two essential kinds of loneliness, that not having found someone to love and that of having been deprived by the one you did love. Barnes offer different view of mourning and melancholy in two novels, and the shapes his narratives are elaborating on a grief and loss in way much deeper in a Sigmund Freud perspective. Propositions, if wouldn't be wrong to suggest that Barnes' analysis of mourning and melancholy are more persuasive in theory and wider a scope compared in the Freud's examine of them. And in the politics of a friendship of Jacques Derrida demonstrate there is a law of a friendship. This means thus of mourning. Barnes already knows that in every relationship there are a mental and a emotional preparation for a death or loss that is to come, and his assessed in level of life. Every love story is a potential grief story. It not a first, then later. If not for one, then for the other. Sometimes for both. In the Freud essay, The Mourning and Melancholy, he defined mourning means mourning is a work which starts with a normal reaction to the loss of a loved person or the loss of some abstraction which has taken the place of one, such as a fatherland, liberty, and an idol, and so on. Mourning for him is a healthy process and a conscious, deliberate work of introductions. Whereas the melancholia is a work of incorporation, not a process with the tellers. Freud's the melancholy is a pathology, a complex which behave like open wound, whereas mourning is a process of a healthy inbound. In mourning, it is the word which has become a poor and empty, and melancholy means ego itself. Barnes, by focus in the self disgustive loyalty, is the dejection subject. Show how this subject endures the embarrassed melancholy levels of life and the only story. In both story, Barnes put the center characters who are loyalty, internalization, and incorporate the memories of a loved one. The lost one becomes an integral part with the narrator. Levels of life is illustrated in the balance and the normal relationship, whereas the only story is a lame, shameful, and unbalanced relationship. In the conclusion, the levels of life in the only story can be read as a two gift to death to equalize that design as the example of a fruitful failure in the morning. Barnes is the another dimension to Freud and Derrida's theory by the turning gift into art. And the same thing in the true for grief is the negative image of love, and he show how time doesn't necessarily dominate sorrow and offers a way that essence the pain is a projecting melancholy into a fiction. The levels of life and the only story translate grief into aesthetic expression and capture in the story. Yes.
Nidhi, what is the significance of ending of the only story in a relation of Mourning and Melancholy?
In the ending of the novel, the only story, it's a relation with a mourning and a melancholy. Mourning and the melancholy is the say about the pain and sorrowness of the characters. And the only story, the main character, their characters are lost by Paul's lost her Susan. That's why he feel in the pain in the
Next question is what are the three parts levels of life of this story?
Loudly, so your voice is captured.
What are the three parts level of life the only story?
I do not remember.
You referred to both the things in your this one, no? Both the points you referred in your presentations. Levels of life and Freud's concept of melancholy. So with that you have to give answer. The questions are not out of the slides. So you should be able to justify that.
She asking me three parts name, but I don't remember.
You levels of three levels of part. So what levels of life you have discussed in the slides? Do you remember the levels of life that you have discussed in?
Not remember.
Yes. Have you talked about levels of life in your presentation?
Yes. Name was not remember.
Any levels of life, but you have to answer that in whatever context it is asked. You can slightly modify question and then reply with what you know. These are skills to how to tackle the question. Are you getting the point? How to tackle the question. It is not always how to answer the question. How to tackle the question. So આ બધું પણ તમે સેમિનારમાં જાઓ તો શીખવા મળે કે પ્રશ્ન કેવો પૂછાયો ને કેમ જવાબ આપતા હોય. બાળી કઈથી જોતા હો તો બધું યાદ રાખીને ધ્યાન રાખીને. So people tackle the questions. They don't always answer the question. So how will you tackle the question? If it is out of your slides, then you can still skip. But this is from your slides. Both the questions are from your slides. So you should be able to tackle that. Okay, so you also are reading a lot. Huh? You are filling your slide with lot many stuff and reading everything in that. So it becomes very dull, very long also, dull and boring also. Okay, next.
Hello, I am Nilay Rathod and I am going to present.
Sharing.
Yes.
Sharing.
Yes. and I'm going to present a symbolic representation of the Ministry of Utmost Happiness. Let me share my slides. So in this presentation, we are going to deal with four symbols: vulture, Hazrat Sharmad, Hazrat Sarmad, and Jannat and Dunya. Introduction: The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, second novel by the Indian writer Arundhati Roy, published in 2017. The story and spans decades in location, but it is largely set in Delhi and Kashmir. The story is of people navigating some of the darkest and most violent episode of modern Indian history, like politics, sexism, and many such like environmentalism also. The Ministry of Utmost Happiness provide a concept engagement with a question of realism also. First, symbol vultures. The novel starts with the epilogue, and there it is coming as a symbol, the vultures. And vultures are always known for uh, the helping with ecology, as well as the creepiness of the animals. And in the letter, in the newsletter of Dr. Azad Bharti, it is written that like भारत में गधे गिद्ध और सूरज राज करते हैं. The vultures appear in the very various instances throughout the novel, including the opening scenes, the epilogue, the prologue. Uh, the International Union of Conservation of Nature added the white-rumped vultures to their red list because of the extinction of the vultures. And Roy has brought this into light in her novel. Hazrat Sarmad Shahid is the second symbol. He is a holy man in the Indian Islamic tradition. Originally, and in the novel, originally an Armenian Jew traveled to India in pursuit of a Hindu man whom he loved, and in this process he converted his religion into Islam, and he was executed because he did not read his kalima. He had begun to have religious doubt and refused to recite the kalima. Sarmad and his shrine are symbol of both some symbols of the kinds of love that novel celebrates. One that embraces diversity and stems from one's own difference. Sarmad's sexuality and religious opinion makes him marginal as well as the dangerous identity to the society. Aurangzeb, the emperor of that time, summoned Sarmad to his court to prove that he was a true Muslim, but and to recite the kalima, full kalima, La ilaha illallah Muhammad ur Rasul illah, which means there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. Instead, Sarmad stood naked there and in the court and before the juries and only recited the kalima like La illah, which means there is no God. And because of this, the Aurangzeb, with the help of his court members, Qazis, executed Sarmad. Guikyom, the dung beetle. Everybody in Roy writes in her novel that everybody that is except for Guikyom, the dung beetle, he was wide awake and on duty, lying on his back with his leg in the air to save the world in case of heavens fell. But even he knew that things would turn out all right in the end. They would because they had to. So here we can see that at the end of the novel, Arundhati Roy is putting a little bit of hope after many such of crisis in the novel. So the mood of the writer resonates with the epigraph where she acknowledges the presence of those who are unconsoled, which is not directly said in the novel who are the unconsoled, but indirectly it is said that Dalits, the untouchables, marginalized, various the Hijras, and the Adivasis, the Maoist. It seems to suggest that the beetle who is lying on his back with his legs in the air will save the world in the case of the heaven fell. Dung beetle are known to have the ability to decompose, which can improve the soil quality and reduce the risk of disease transmission. And another report, also National Geographic report, shows that dung beetles have been shown to contribute to afforestation by burying the fertilization seeds found in animal waste. The novels end on the note of hope. The hope symbolizes in dung beetle is not unforeseen. Dunya and Jannat questions the happiness of life and death. Dunya, which is the term used by Hijraj to refer to the life outside the Khwabgah. Jannat is a name which Anjum gives to her house in the cemetery, and which is translated as a paradise. Jannat guest house and Khwabgah both exist as an utopian bubble outside the horrors and violence of the real world. But we can see the later part of Dandakarya that Revati claims that she cannot live outside. Her home is the forest, but that is the heaven for her. But in her case, the paradise is also just as violent and frightening as the outside world. And Dr. Azad Bharti is also saying, mocking that by killing the Kashmiri militant, that I'm only facilitating the dead to the heaven, to way to heaven. These are the works cited. Thank you.
Nilay, my question is, what is the significance of the title Ministry of Happiness?
So the significance is not in the literal sense of the title, the Ministry of Utmost Happiness, but the ministry. Also, we also can say in the like Gharana or clan. It is like, and the later part of the title, the utmost happiness, which can never be found in the novel. It is filled with sorrow, and so I can say that the title is not to be taken as literally, like there is no happiness, so we cannot take it literally, the Ministry of Utmost Happiness. We have to read further on deep into the novel, so we can make a sense out of this title. That's all. Thank you.
Can you summarize these four symbols in your words?
Yes, so the symbol of vulture, which Arundhati Roy also is an eco-critic. So we can say that she has put front her point as an environmental critic. So to show the real-time crisis of the vultures dying, as well as the, if we interpret it in different way, then we can say artist, dancer, and many such artists are also dying. And the second one is a Gohyam, which is also connected with environmentalism, and the Jannat and Khwabga, which is a which is known as a utopian world in the literal sense, but here in the novel, these are just names given to these places. That's all.
Okay, so today is the first day of this semester 4 season 2023 presentation, and I am Nirav Amreliya. So today I'll be making presentations on the topic that is the Julian Barnes, the only story is a memory narrative. So how memory plays a vital role in the whole novel, we will look at. It is the introductory part or the introductory slides of my presentation. So you will find the information about the novel. So first, let us understand the genre. It is the psychological fiction. So there is more of a psychology because memory it is involved in the narration by the narrator Paul Roberts, and many other minor characters like Joan is there and Susan McLeod is there. So let us move ahead. Yes. So first point is that the only story is a memory narrative. Now, the issue of temporal point of view, Campbell writes that the issue of temporal point of view, retrospect is key here. Paul is, as he tells us, revisiting and he admits inevitably, if unintentionally, revisioning personal history. So now memory, we can say that history is a collective memory and memory is a personal history. So these things is there. And here is the quotation that you understand, I hope, that I'm telling you everything as I remember. So here the memory is captured. The how Paul relies on his memory and he tells or he narrates his story to the audience or to the reader. So as far as the memory is concerned, it falls in the regime of unreliability because memory can never be reliable. We see why in further slides. Julian Barnes' novel, The Only Story 2018, can be read as a monograph on the complications of love. So it can be read as a monograph because only Paul is there to narrate every other's story. Like Paul, he tells himself that okay, I was there in my 19s, early 19s, and other people used to be like this according to my point of view, or in my opinion, or in my sight. So memory sorts and shifts according to the demands made on it by the rememberer. Do we have access to the algorithm of its priorities? Probably not. But I would guess that memory prioritizes whatever is most useful to help keep the bearer of those memories going. So now, the purpose of his story is to achieve something in fiction that he could not in reality. So, whatever he thought or he dreamt in his early youth, we can say, then he tried to achieve it through his dreams, through his memory. So, it becomes very significant that we people who are not who cannot get something or achieve in real life, so they will just dream, they will just write, or in expressing these things, they will get together there. So, like suppose this immortality, so that we all know that we are not immortals, the men or the humans, we can say in ancient text, men means humans. So, but still in our narratives, we find that people are drinking the amrit or the nectar or elixir, they are becoming immortal and they are ruling the heaven, hell, or God, anything. So, it is the thing. And here is the Naipo, another quotation, like he reiterates his story to himself so that he might understand his experience better. He is mostly remembering. So, he is not telling factual data, he is not giving the factual data, but he is mostly remembering and even fictionalizing. So it is not the whole total truth or the we can say the raw truth coming in front of us, but he fictionalizes within that. And one another important thing is that Dipesh Chakrabarty has also given the appropriate phrase, that is trauma is memory. So while even Sigmund Freud also says that whenever whatever touches your emotions, it becomes the memory. It becomes the long-term part of your memory. So we are having two type of memory within us: that the short-term memory and another is the long-term memory. So here, whatever touches our emotional aspect, our emotional part, then it becomes the part of the long-term memory. So here, this term that trauma is the long-term memory, we can see while studying the character of Susan McLeod. So here is the quotation that how Susan felt that okay, her uncle when she was 16, when her father died, so she went to live with his her aunt and Uncle Humphrey, and how Uncle Hump used to take a sexual or physical advantage out of her. These things is there. So how it was the Susan's trauma that became her memory, the part of the long-term memory. Now, as soon as we say the memory, then as far as the interdisciplinary aspect of academics is concerned, then we have to locate it in the psychological field as well. So as and when we discuss or just refer to memory as a field for cognitive studies, the cognitive or the mental or the brain study, in psychology, some juggernaut psychologists such as Sigmund Freud, Sir Jean Piaget, Carl Jung, Sir Jacques Lacan, William James, and who gave their major portion of neurons in the pursuit of human behavior studies. So now, in his I have taken one book that in his groundbreaking book titled as "The Interpretation of Dreams." Freud makes a critical case for memory in context of his relations with dream and the function. So what in his works he does that in terms of the dreams that we feel or we see in sleep or we a bit of remember. So in what memory plays. So in terms of his giving, but how he raises one kind of spirit of doubt in memory. So he writes, the entire memory of the dream is open to an objection. The entire memory of a dream is open to an objection because memory can never be reliable. To depreciate its value very markedly in critical eyes. So it will be looked at objectively, not thoroughly subjectively. That okay, my memory is there, so it must be good, and whatever I narrate, it must be. No, it is not so. It must be critical point of view. It must imbued with critical point of views. One may doubt whether our memory, which omits so much from the dream, does not falsify what it retained. So whatever it omits from the dream, so does not falsify what it retained. So whatever we remember, it must not be falsified. Okay, so it must be it must be dealt with very objective aspect, without any bias, without any prejudice into it. Yes. So memory narratology, how it works. So first narratology comes, then we remember the name of Sir Jean Genet. Jean Genet. So here he's Genet, Janet. So it is Pierre Genet, the French psychologist. But the narratology, we are having the narration time, discourse time concept given by Sir Jean Genet. But here another person like the scholar, that this Pierre Genet, he is a French psychologist. So he tells what about memory, that the memory system is the central organizing apparatus of the mind. So central organizing apparatus of the mind. So it is there in the center. Even see we in the middle part of this, our memory storage is located within the brain, which categorizes and integrates all aspects of experiences and automatically integrates them into ever enlarging and flexible meaning schemes. So whatever experience we get throughout our life, so it is our part, this mental part, it tries to give always this, okay, there must be some meaning, that you have seen this dream, then there must be some meaning related to your life, as Sigmund Freud has also said. And as well, this Sir Carl Jung also tells about this collective unconscious. So whatever is written through the unconscious of the people, so it becomes the. So, but now again, Paul tells, but I would guess that memory prioritizes. That memory always prioritizes because innately, we are having one purpose that our brain gives us. We have to be happy. That this some kind of bylight generated, we are doing some activities, we are listening to the music, or we are doing whatever we like do. So that is why that. But I would guess that memory prioritizes. So what does it prioritize? Because basically, it prioritizes our good experiences or good memories, and not bad one. But later it shifts to the bad as well. So giving or leaving man or human in the regime of sadness. Okay. And here is also a good point that Milman Perry has pointed out is based on oral poetics. So it is about the narration, the relation between memory and narration. So how, first of all, before the written poetry began, there was the ballad tradition. So people used to remember the ballad and they used to sing it, chant it in front. So it was that how memory and the narration is interconnected with each other, even from this ancient times. And memory is rooted in autobiographical fact, but it is also an art. Like memoir, so whatever you are providing in form of literature written, so it is rooted in autobiographical fact, so it comes from you, so it must be judged well. So but it is also art. Now the purpose of memory narration in postmodernist writing. So what purpose is there in postmodernist writing? So we are having modern age starting from 1901 to the and lasting to up till 1950 to 1960, as soon as Sir Jacques Derrida came and he gave the theory of deconstruction in this lecture seminar. So the purpose of bringing memory narratives into literary authorship can be to form the rigidly conservative minds of the reader and spectators into doubting and questioning minds, which can probe for further rather than relying on just what comes as sacred ancient scriptures or holy texts. So whatever we are given, so like I have taken one reference from this our early Indian Vedic tradition, that there are two types of knowledge system. Like the first one is Shruti, or whatever is listened to and then written, and another is Smriti. So whatever is remembered from the ancient sages and then it is written. So what Shruti basically constitutes, that is that our Vedas, Shruti, then Brahmanas is there, and Smriti considers of this Puranas, these epics, that Mahabharata, Ramayana, and other things like this. And as the statement, language bears within itself the necessity of its own critique, forms the base of deconstruction concept originated by Sir Jacques Derrida. So anything as soon as it is kept within inside, so it can be judged or it can be imagined, it can be dreamt in different ways. But as soon as it is spoken outside, that there will be the critical people, and it should be done. So as soon as any word or any phrase or any sentence is articulated, it must fall in the regime of the criticism. It must be done. Otherwise we will have to be like things like we cannot understand properly, we just grasp it or as it comes, but it should not be done. It has to be criticized, it has to be deconstructed. And here are my works cited. Thank you. And now questions, please.
My question is, how does memory shape in the narratives of the only story, and what role does it play in the protagonist's understanding of past and present relationships?
Yes. Yes, as your question goes. Yes, as your question goes, that how does memory shape the narrative of the only story, and what role does it play in the protagonist's understanding of his past and present life? So basically, what role memory plays, like he remembers everything. At the same time, he's telling, okay, it is not that whatever I remember is true. So he tells that I am not reimagining memory, I am reconstructing, or rather, I am not reimagining or reconstructing. I am just telling. So this is the part that protagonist remembers, that whatever I am remembering right now of my early age, early youth of 19 years old, right now is 80. So it cannot be taken as literal, it cannot be true as well. So this is the understanding even protagonist gets, and he gives, or he gives to the readers as well, that don't rely whatever I say. Just go through it. And if you find it applicable to my life or my narration, then accept it. Otherwise, don't. So satisfied also. Yeah, the next.
Yes, Nirav. My question is there any evidence in the novel of that Paul's traumatic past, which might be the case that he is needing to dig his regretful past at this late in the life? And the other question is, can we assume that Paul is amplifying his doubts and narrating it to us as far as the narration or memory is concerned? Humans mind tend to amplify our thoughts and
Yes, it does.
only consume that.
Yes,
That's-
exactly. Yes. So the first question is there any evidence in the novel of Paul's traumatic past? So, well, Paul's traumatic past was not there. Like he starts that, oh, my home is like this, and we are doing this. So he does not tell that, oh, these traumas are happened to me. He tells that, okay, the traumas are there in the Susan's life, in the Joan's life, but not in my life as such. So it is not, there is, I think there is no evidence, as long as I've gone through the whole novel, and through the schemes of characters as well, that deeply. But there is, I don't find that there is any evidence that Paul gives. So if you are having, then you can suggest it as well. And what was the second part? Okay, so he amplifies his thoughts in narrative. Yes. Can we assume that Paul is amplifying his doubts and narrating it to us? Well, he does so. He does so because whenever he depicts the character of Gordon MacLeod, he just tells, okay, how Gordon is the wicked guardian. That the fantastical aspect also comes, that Gordon, he compares Gordon with this wicked guardian, Susan with the pretty maid, and himself is the brave gladiator. As long as he's telling about this his life or Susan's life, then he narrates Susan as very well mannered woman. He hides the bedsides of the Susan. So that is why he amplifies, relying on his personal taste palettes, or personal biases, we can say prejudices. Satisfied? Hmm. Yes, thank you.
Slightly adjust. One side is more white space visible. This side, in this side. No, camera. Opposite side. Slightly up. So you can bring department of news out.
Very good evening, everyone. I, Vachchalata Joshi, going to deal with the eco-critical concern with Hungry Tide and Gun Island.
This is PDF, I think you are doing.
It was giving option to open with Google Slides.
To share entire screen, it will be better. I think window is sharing here, so if you replace the window, you might have opened another window.
Very good evening, everyone. I am Vachchalata Joshi, going to deal with the eco-critical concern with Gun Island and the Hungry Tide. The table of content. In this, I am going to deal with the writer introduction in a brief, climate change, the environmental sustainability in Sundarban, the Hungry Tide, and Cli-Fi, Gun Island, and the degenerating ecosystems and non-human world and ecological destruction. The brief introduction of Amitav Ghosh. So Amitav Ghosh is have become the first Indian writer to strongly engage with ecological issues in the English fiction. His famous and notably works is The Great Derangement, The Shadow Lines, The Hungry Tide, the Calcutta Chronosome, and he has worked as journalist and has written topical issues including terrorism, religious fundamentalism, displacement, and many post-colonial relatives of the third world. What is the term eco-criticism? According to M.H. Abrams, a glossary of literary terms, eco-criticism was a term coined in the late 1970s by combining criticism with shortened form of ecology. That science that investigates the interrelations of all forms, plant, animals life with human life. Uh, in a brief, we can say that the acute awareness of the damage being wrought on the environment by human activities. What is the term climate change? Climate change refers to the long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, such as through variations in solar cycle. Human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gases. We can say that the air pollution and industrialization has a bad effect on climate. Burning fossil fuels and generates greenhouse gas emissions that act like a blanket wrapped around the earth, trapping the sun's heat and raising temperatures. The environmental sustainability in Sundarban says that a region of mangrove forest in India and that proposes the strategies for the achieving greater sustainability in the region. The impact of climate change, deforestation, and human activities such as fishing and lodging on the Sundarban has given a bad thing on ecosystem and discusses the importance of preserving the region's biodiversity for the sake of both local communities and the broader ecosystem. The urgent need to prioritize environmental sustainability in the Sundarban in order to protect the region's unique ecosystem and support the livelihoods of local communities. The local people who are going through such rain and flood and how the river is taking all the lands is showing in this picture. The novel Hungry Tide has the story of three people who are we can say canning to river for dolphins by Pia Roy, who is studying microbiology in marine mammals. It says The Sundarban, the Ghosh examines the tensions between the human communities, their respective relationships with the natural world, and the extra discursive reality of nature that changes and is simultaneously changed by humanity in the hungry tide. Hungry Tide says a region of mangrove forest in India, and that tells of story that relationship between human inhabitants and of the region of the natural world, that impact of climate change on the Sundarban as rising sea levels on the more frequent and severe storms threatened by survival of mangrove forest and the communities that depend on it. So we have seen while studying that how the living local living people who are surviving on that island is being affected by this climate change. The character of Pia, a marine biologist, has working on scientific study of the environmental and urgent need for action to mitigate the effects of climate change. The novel Hungry Tide explores the impact of globalization, capitalism, and environment as the character of Kanai, a businessman who is shown to be responsible for the destruction of environment in the pursuit of profit. For that, we can take the recent example of Ganga River, where one man was digging the river to get the gold. As we have the myth that if you are throwing the ashes in the river, we can find the gold and silver from their ashes who are died. So we have seen that news recently that how need of living is become the bad thing, that globalization and affecting on globalization and capitalism, the degenerating ecosystem and non-human world. Amitav Ghosh in the novel travels from the wild and tangled Sundarban to Los Angeles, parched by the wildfires, to slowly sinking Venice. We can see that how we have seen the Sundarban sinking. The land is been cutting down and river is coming through, how we have seen the Anthropocene scenes of Los Angeles and the sinking Venice under the river is a recent non-humanistic world. Earth's temperature has been rising due to climate change, and the hotter climatic conditions have been igniting fires and have been damaging the environment and local wildfire. Recently, we have experienced a dreadful wildfires in many parts of the world, such as California wildfires, Brazil's Amazon rainforest fires in 2020, and bushfires in Australia, with the increasing size, duration, and intensity. So in pictures, we can see that these first two pictures are from Venice, and both second are from Sundarban. The eco-critical destruction, the human-caused climate crisis in the several forms like increasing temperatures, weather extremes, rising sea levels, tidal inundation, and so forth, has been intensifying the destruction of ecosystem, inhabitant loss of changing distribution patterns of non-human worlds. So we have this recent example of this mixture of seasons. We have this rain and a cold weather and this heat wave. So this is the worst effect of on ecology by human. Besides these calamitous changes have largely influenced humankind as well. We will attempt to locate how human life at the margins has been controlled by these life-altering events through examining Gun Island. In the novel, he exposes the consequences that the inhabitants of Sundarbans are facing due to the ecological destructions of the mangrove swamps. The climate change might lead to more wildfire, including hot lightning strikes. What a new study says. Lightning is a major cause of triggering wildfires and is responsible for producing the largest wildfires in some regions, including the western United States. Lightning caused wildfires are dangerous as they spread rapidly before a strong response can be implemented and release a substantial amount of carbon, nitrogen oxide, and other trace gases into the atmosphere. we have these recent examples of this climate change and how the lightning is affecting the wildfires. In conclusion, I would like to say that Ghosh in Gun Island puts effort to expose the ecological devastation through the Sundarbans. Human activities are responsible for the increasing alternative and of climatic conditions. We cannot say everything is in negative because we have recent examples of let me say there is one man who is called who is cleaned 160-kilometer long river by himself only, who is a baba, Balbir Singh, known as Eco Baba. There is another example of a Brazilian couple who take 20 years to grow a forest for themselves, and they have 2 million trees in there. And in our culture, we have that Sadguru who is doing a campaigning movement for save soil, to save the land degradation and to generate a healthy soil. So, in a way, we can say that not everyone is spoiling the nature. There are few people who are working to help the mother nature, and there are a lot of kind of negative aspects to say that we have industrialization and uh, this digitalization which is helping to grow the calamities. In a way, I can say that adopting a holistic view that has an ecocentric and nature inclusive model of growth will prevent the impressions of climate change. There must be a partnership ethic between nature and humanity that does not view nature as a resource created specifically for human utility, but rather as coexistence of human and biotic life with mutual support, mutuality, and partnership with each other. These are my work cited. Thank you.
So, uh, Vachchalata, so in your opinion, first, what may be the possible solutions for the general development of humans, apart from the damaging aspect of the idea of development to the relationship to the earth? So, what I want to tell, like, people will come, okay, see, without development, see, the development is there, it will be on the cost of the damage on the forest part or the natural resources, whatever are there. But now people come and say, Jiva Jiva Shiva, so if we want to be happy, then some other will have to die. So is it the concept behind this idea of development, or if somebody comes and tells that okay, I cannot I mean like I cannot run my life without this brush or whatever equipments I am having, and that equipments are made by the damage of the nature. So what answers, or see, there is a regressive approach that turn to the nature, turn to the rustic life, and what else can be there? Thank you.
So your question is whether what I understand from your question, because it was way longer to understand in one go and very speedy. So I would like to say that if you are talking about that, if you are working on something, that you have to let go something. If you are working for city, then you have to let go rural area, and if you are working for rural area, you have to let go the city. So in my answer, I would like to say that if you are living in a jungle, then you have to preach for your food. So in a way, we have to save soil and mother earth. So we have to have that positive aspect towards the nature, rather than just spoiling the nature. Okay. Anything else?
My question is there any reasons apart from natural causes that leads to mass migration? Like in the novel, we have tidal changes in Sundarban that forces people to migrate. So can we find any other than natural causes?
Yes, there is one financial cause in the novel mentioned, because the people who are local living in a rural area don't find they cannot survive with the river only, or if they are living besides the sea. So there is one aspect of mass migration is the economic condition, then financial crisis. Thank you.
Okay, so with this, this first session ends here. First day ends here, both the session. By and large, the comments which were required I have given along with the things also. Some of you were asking good questions. Still, everybody need to improve the quality of question, and also if questions are related to your slides, you should be able to justify it thoroughly. You have to answer it in proper context also. Okay? And a few things about the research writing things, technicalities. I hope in research methodology paper you will improve, and I won't have to say any comment about that day after tomorrow. You have a holiday tomorrow, so you have enough time to prepare for research methodology presentation, and you all will go through the entire syllabus, so that from everything there is something to learn. The entire all the units of that, and then whichever topic you are going to select, you will give proper justification, because in that I won't like to make comment about academic writing, quality of writing, or research methodology topic. At least in that paper you should be very particular about. Okay, so with this we end today's day, and let me end the live telecast.